Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 13th of June, 2023. Right, everyone, let's get into it. So the SEC clown show continues with a bit of a funny thing out today from a couple of congressmen in the US. So they've basically introduced a bill. So these are House Republicans have introduced a bill to remove Gary Gensler as the SEC chair. Now, I want to start off by saying that I don't think this bill is going to go anywhere. I don't think this is going to get Gary Gensler removed. And I also don't think removing him would necessarily change anything, because unless the person that replaces him was someone that was like really pro crypto, I don't think it would actually move the needle on what we actually want moved from the SEC. What we want from the SEC for crypto is really just clear guidelines on regulations that centralized parties in the crypto ecosystem, such as exchanges like Coinbase, need to follow, and the rules they need to follow. We need clear guidance on what the SEC considers a security and what it doesn't, based on actual kind of legislation. And we also need someone that is rather impartial and not just looking out for their own best interests. Now, as part of this bill, it wasn't just to remove Gary Gensler, it was also to basically remove the position of SEC chair generally, which is something that I actually agree with, removing the SEC chair position and basically having a council replace that. So I think a council of like 8 people or something like that, rather than a chairman at the top and an executive kind of director sitting underneath for the day-to-day operations there. That would actually be better, because right now the way it kind of works is that the SEC, like a lot of things in the US, is just very politicized, right? The reason why Gary Gensler gets so much support from the Democrats is because he is a Democrat appointee, right? So no matter what he does, the Democrats can't be seen to be going against him, because it means that they'll be going against their own appointee. So it's very partisan, right? It's very kind of like divisive politics, but I guess that's what the US is known for these days, unfortunately. So I think that removing the chair position and replacing it with like 8 different people, each political party, it's not just exclusive to the Democrats, it's each political party would probably not necessarily like to do that, because it means they couldn't use it as a kind of like political football, right? They couldn't use it as a way to score political points. But it would be better for the SEC, in my opinion. It would be better for the country, rather than just having one kind of figurehead that seems to dictate what happens, dictates the enforcement actions, dictates the SEC's policies against things like crypto, which, as we've seen, hasn't resulted in a healthy kind of a healthier environment for crypto generally here. And also, speaking of the SEC, there was these Hinman documents that were released just before that I think the Ripple community has been going on about a lot, because it was part of the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple to get these, and Ripple wanted to get these documents released and get the contents unsealed from them. And the TLDR is that they basically say that ETH isn't a security. Like the former ACC chair, I believe, stated that they didn't want to pursue anything against ETH, and they didn't consider ETH a security, which is kind of funny, because now, I think this was back in 2018, but now Gary Gensler obviously is refusing to answer whether ETH is a security or not, but he has implied that he thinks ETH is a security in the past. And again, this just goes back to all of that uncertainty that surrounds this sorts of stuff, and why Gary Gensler is definitely not doing a good job, and why, the SEC generally is not fulfilling its mandate here. But again, it won't do that, because who's going to pull him up on it? The only people pulling him up on it are the Republicans. Now, the funny thing is that the Republicans are also doing this for political points, because they see that it's a way for them to get political favor, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what team you're on or what side you're on or whatever it is, whichever party it is. Politics is politics. It's the same thing. And I guess like in the US, it's very divisive, because there's really just 2 political parties, and there's no kind of ranked choice voting. So you really, at the federal level, for pretty much like most states, for voting for the president or voting, you basically have 2 choices. You can't really do preference voting and ranked choice voting, which leads to all this divisive stuff and all this bullshit politics that I guess pretty much all of us, I think, would be sick of at this point. I mean, I'm not in the US, but it feels like in Australian politics, it's become a bit more US-like over the past few years, especially post-COVID. But anyway, I don't want to kind of get bogged down in politics talk here, but I think it is relevant, obviously, to all the stuff that's going on with the SEC. And there was also an interesting video here posted by Sam Lyman showing Gary Gensler, literally the SEC chair. This is before he was the chair. It was the chair. This was in 2018. But Gary Gensler was giving a presentation, I believe, to a fund or something. I don't know if it was a crypto. I don't think it was a crypto fund. I think it might have been just a normal TradFi fund. But in the video, he says that Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash are not securities. And then he says 3/4 of this market is probably not securities. So his tune has just changed completely since then. Obviously, people can change their minds on things, and obviously he has. But again, doesn't look very good for him. This isn't consistent. And he's actually given presentations here, which from the ones I've seen have actually been quite good. But he seems to have changed his tune completely. And I explained yesterday why I think that's the case, because he's really just doing it for, I guess, political points himself in order to get promoted. But yeah, this video is quite damning. So I'll link that video in the YouTube description below for you to check out there. All right, so moving on, CZ has shared this article that from Cointelegraph that shows that the Bank of China has issued $28 million in digital structured notes on Ethereum. Now, I haven't seen a kind of like Etherscan transaction hash. Sorry, I should say a transaction hash. I haven't seen like an Etherscan link or anything like that. So I guess generally when looking at these things, I like to verify and don't just trust, especially not trusting anything coming out of China here, but I like to verify the source on this. So I haven't seen anything just yet, but if true, this is quite cool. I think that this speaks to a lot of the things that I've spoken about in the past with Ethereum becoming basically a global settlement layer for pretty much every country, every person, every individual entity, whatever it is, settling their value on Ethereum. Whether it's me and you sending ETH to each other and settling that on the Ethereum chain, or it's nation states and banks within those nation states settling or issuing things like structured notes on Ethereum layer 1 and even layer 2s. But obviously layer 1 is the kind of layer of choice here for a number of different reasons. I think security, decentralization are the top ones here, but also the infrastructure is already there. They can tap into existing DeFi infrastructure and get this stuff integrated with existing things. So just very cool to see that continuation of Ethereum becoming that global settlement layer that I've talked about for a very long time now, and I've written about it in the newsletter quite a bit as well. And I think to me that is like the key value prop of layer 1 Ethereum, is to be that settlement layer, not just for these value things, but also for things like L2s, other real world assets like stablecoins, which obviously Ethereum L1 and even L2s now are succeeding at. But yeah, just great to see that the Bank of China has chosen Ethereum to do this. Yeah, as I said, I haven't verified this, but if true, and I mean, I don't really have any reason to believe that it's not true. It seems like a weird announcement to make, just to I don't know why they would say something like this and lie about it. But yeah, I guess like the details are in the article, and I should read out this little excerpt here because it's actually quite interesting. They said, working together with UBS, we are driving the simplification of digital asset markets and products for customers in Asia Pacific through the development of blockchain-based digital structured products designed specifically for customers in Asia Pacific. So this also speaks to, I guess, the growing kind of divide between the East and the West on crypto. East, it seems to be embracing crypto, and I mean, not all of the West. The UK also seems to be embracing crypto. I'm sure you guys saw the announcement the other day that A16Z is moving or opening an office in the UK, and I believe there is a few other companies going there, and the Prime Minister of the UK wants to become like a Web3 hub, or wants the UK to become a Web3 hub. And then you have China being much more friendly to crypto lately, especially Hong Kong. So, and then you have obviously the US in the West just being very hostile towards crypto. So there's definitely a growing divide here. But I think that any of the US's losses are the East's gain. And Singapore's also been a pretty big hub there. I think India is warming up to crypto more generally. They're still, I think, pretty harsh on crypto, or pretty I guess like pretty similar to the US on it, but they are definitely warming up. Other places and developing markets like in Africa are definitely warming up more there, but these things are going to take time. US is still the biggest market. Europe also, I should mention as well, obviously the UK is not part of the EU anymore, so they have their own strategy, but they are definitely following the EU strategy here of embracing innovation, putting in place proper regulations and proper guidance, instead of doing the US approach of basically gaslighting everyone, which is not something that anyone is happy about right now. But yeah, I think we're going to continue to see more of this come out of non-US places around the world, and I definitely welcome it. All right, moving on to a tweet that I put out today. I started this tweet off and I said, the theme of the next 12 months will be crypto projects shutting down. Some will be good intentioned projects that just didn't find product market fit, but most will be things that never should have been created/funded in the first place. The cleansing phase of the bear market is healthy. So there are a few projects that have already shut down. There are a couple actually that I'm invested in as an angel. It hasn't been publicly announced yet, but it will, that have shut down for various different reasons. So there's reasons stemming from not finding product market fit, or finding product market fit but not finding a way to monetize it, and not wanting to continue down a path of a project for years and years and burn through all the money that they raised just to build something that they know isn't monetizable, or isn't something that actually has a business case behind it. And it's something that might be better off as a public good on Ethereum, or better off as just like a hobby project or a niche project that someone else can take up on, rather than having a business case. And I think this is extremely honorable when projects do this, rather than continuing as zombie projects. Because as we know in crypto, there are plenty of zombie projects, especially the projects that have tokens. And the reason why they continue as zombie projects, well, there's a few reasons. I think the number one reason is because they have a token, they have token holders, and if they said that they were, shutting down the project, that they were stopping development on it, the token would pretty quickly go to zero, and they'd burn all of these holders more than they've already been burnt, and then they'd have potential lawsuits on their hands and other stuff like that, right? So when you have a token, it is really hard to shut down a project gracefully. You can potentially get bought out by another project and do like a token swap and things like that. Or you can basically use the treasury, if the treasury has like stable coins in it, to buy some of the token and guarantee a value, a floor value of the token. But generally, it's quite hard to do that. And another reason I mentioned regulatory stuff is that continuing as a zombie project, you have less chance of being pursued by regulators than if you were to shut the project down and have a bunch of angry investors, at your doorstep, reporting you to regulators, reporting you to other authorities to try and potentially suing you to try and get some of their money back. So when a project has a token, you'll typically see that project not wind down for a long time, or when they do wind down, they do it in such a way where they basically say, oh, it's in the community's hands now, right? We've exited to community, the community can continue building it, and the core team's going to take a step back. So there are various different things that happen here. But generally, it's healthy when projects shut down when they realize that they don't, that there's not a business case there, they don't have product market fit, and they don't expect to have product market fit, because it means that the founders and team can go work on something else that maybe does have product market fit. It means that they don't continue as a zombie, so less people get burnt, especially if they haven't issued a token and only taken private investments. That's a very clean kind of shutdown there. So that's my preferred one. But then there are a lot of projects out there that shouldn't have been funded or created in the first place. A lot of froth from the bull market, a lot of crap. I mean, I'm not talking about just like meme coins. I wouldn't consider those things projects. Really, they're just gambling vehicles at the end of the day. But I'm talking about lots of these projects that get spun up, and they're just really bad ideas. And you know that they're going to fail. They have a very, very small chance, pretty much a 0% chance of succeeding, but people spin them up because they get caught up in the froth of the bull market. There's money flowing everywhere. Obviously, lots of money was raised from VCs and funds, and they needed to splurge that money, and they were willing to give it to any project, no matter what it was. And you kind of see that froth playing out over time. Now, these projects will also either shut down quietly or otherwise. A lot of them do have tokens. For the ones that I'm thinking of in my head, I'm not going to name names here because it's rather irrelevant, but the ones that have tokens, it's going to be very hard for them to gracefully shut down. The tokens are already wrecked, don't get me wrong. They're already down like 95+%. But the problem is that it doesn't matter that they're down that much, because the people holding the tokens will always hope that the team's, building, the devs are doing something, the token's going to go back up, and they'll compare it to other tokens that have gone back up. I mean, the amount of times that I've seen people make comparisons between the bags that they're holding and ETH going down in 2018, 94%, and coming back from that is crazy, because there is basically a 0% chance that your thing that you're holding, your favorite token that you're holding, is going to do what ETH did for a multitude of different reasons, right? One, a lot of the times you're comparing something to ETH that shouldn't be compared to ETH. You're comparing your app layer to the protocol layer. Two, if you look at what came back from 2018 and actually went to a new all-time high against USD, let alone ETH and BTC, there was hardly anything that did that, right? So you shouldn't be comparing the one exception, which is ETH, to your thing. You should be comparing it to the rule, and you should be understanding that there's a very, very low chance of a lot of these tokens coming back against USD, let alone ETH. And again, I'm not going to name names here because it's irrelevant, and I also anger people if I name certain things here. But that's just the reality of the situation. And because of that, I think that even the projects where the token is already down 95+%, even if they were to say that they're shutting down, it would still be really bad for the existing, I guess, like people holding the token, because they would be like, well, there's no chance now of me getting my money back, because that's kind of like removing all the hope from them. You always want to have people having the hope, whatever. And there are so many projects like that, unfortunately. But this is just the way it is. That you have the froth of the bull market, froth gets washed out, you have the bear market, you have that time-based capitulation that I've been talking about a lot over the last few months, and part of that is projects going under because they run out of money or because they just know that it's not going to go anywhere. And as I said, it's easier for projects to do that when they don't already have a token. Very hard to do that once you have a token, because you obviously have the public investors here that are expecting a return on their investment, whether they should be expecting that or not. So yeah, hopefully that gives more context over this tweet today, in case you saw it. All right, a fresh EIP 4844 implementers call notes from Terrence as per usual. You can give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. This is the 24th call, and as usual, 4844 seems to be making some very nice progress here, and you can check out the thread for updates on that. I'm not going to read through all of this, but yeah, I remember I mentioned on the All Core Devs call there was discussion around the size for blobs here, whether it was 2/4 or 3/6. DevNet 6 is going to use 3/6, and also the 4844 implementers agreed that 3/6 is very desirable because it gives 50% more throughput, which makes a big difference to L2. And given the lack of network topology, some concerns are raised that 3/6 on DevNet may not produce a satisfactory result because it's not going to properly mirror mainnet here. I believe that there is a testnet being spun up, a new testnet being spun up. I can't remember the name of it. It was detailed in Tim Byko's All Core Devs thread. I think it's called Wholeski or something like that, that aims to have more validators on it than Ethereum mainnet. And I think obviously the whole point of that is to be able to test things in as close to Ethereum mainnet as possible. Obviously, we have things like shadow forks as well, which will happen as we get closer to the release of Denkun. But they really want to make sure that 3/6 blob size on mainnet will not destabilize the chain, because if it does, it means that there would need to be another hard fork to change this, because this value can only be changed via a hard fork. So obviously testing is underway here, and that is something that is under active discussion that you can read about in this thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. All right, we have a new kind of chart here from Tony on the mevboost.pix website. So this chart now displays a breakdown of the relays to which individual builders submit their blocks. So you can see it's quite even, actually. This actually surprised me with how evenly distributed it is here. So you can see over the last 48 hours, bids submitted per builder to each of these relays is rather even. I mean, you have some obvious leaders here, some, I guess, like the purple, which is block native, and red, which is blocks route, and also blue, which is the ultrasound money relay. But really, the difference between each of them isn't very much. I think the smallest is the Aeustis relay. Second smallest is agnostic Gnosis. But generally, they're all pretty similar. And as I said, you can view this live on the mevboost.pix website, which still continues to be one of the best websites to keep track of all the MEV Boost related stuff. I think it's in the relays section here, I believe. Yeah, you can see bids received over the last 48 hours. I didn't realize that a block native had actually grown that much, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah, block native is in green here, so you can see. Actually, I should open the mevwatch.info website as well, because you can actually see a breakdown of market share here as well. If you disable include all blocks, you can actually see, obviously, split into censored relays and non-censoring. Block native is actually grown quite a bit. They're at 6.6% of all not of all blocks, of all MEV boosted blocks here. Whereas ultrasound money obviously still leading on the not on the uncensored blocks front and on all fronts. They're at 42% now, which is pretty big. And then Flashbot's at 27% still on the censoring side of things. But yeah, great to see that it's more evenly distributed than I thought it was actually. But it's funny because ultrasound money is quite big now. I actually think that they're too big. I think there was a plan to limit themselves to like 33% of the network or something like that. Even though that they're a non-censoring relay, they could, for whatever reason at any time, be either compelled to be a censoring relay or shut down their relay for whatever reason. Right, and then we'd probably see this kind of OFAC compliance shoot up again unless someone comes along and replaces the ultrasound money relay. But I guess it speaks to just how good that relay is and how many bids they receive here. But yeah, anyway, you can check out this chart for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so Polygon's big announcement that I talked about yesterday is live. Well, not totally live, as they do have plans to release more information over the next few weeks here, but essentially what they announced is something called Polygon 2.0, which they're calling a blueprint to build the ultimate value layer. Now, they have a description here of what this is. They say Polygon 2.0 is a set of upgrades that radically reimagine almost every aspect of Polygon, from protocol architecture to tokenomics to governance. It is a roadmap for how Polygon will become the value layer, offering unlimited scalability and unified liquidity via ZK tech. And then you can see important dates listed here. So this will be going over the next month. On June 19th, they'll be talking about the Polygon POS chain and the future of it. On the 26th of June, they'll be talking about the architecture and stack of the Polygon 2.0 suite. On the 10th of July, the token will be talked about and plans for that. And on the 17th of July, they'll be talking about decentralized governance. Now, if I had to speculate here on these things, you guys know I'm an advisor to Polygon, but I'm speculating here. Based on comments that I've seen from the Polygon founders, I think that they may announce that the Polygon POS chain is going to be converted into a ZK EVM. Because to me, it makes little sense for them to continue developing the POS chain because it splits their attention on the BD marketing side of things, but also splits their attention on the technical side of things. And also the POS chain is not something that has long-term sustainability. It is definitely not the be-all end-all of Polygon. I think they definitely want to focus on their ZK AVMs. But in saying all of that, the Polygon POS chain is huge. It has a lot of users on there. It has a lot of volumes, a lot of TVL, a lot of activity. So they don't want to just throw that away. They want to essentially, from my read on it, convert it to a ZK VM, which is secured by Ethereum, which obviously would be very, very big, a very, very big deal. So I think that's what's going to happen there. In terms of the future architecture and stack of Polygon 2.0, I think based on the comments that they made in this thread on the blog post here, it's going to look a lot more like the OP stack superchain than anything else. So essentially, they're imagining a world of interconnected L2s running on Polygon's ZK technology, which is very similar to Optimism's superchain, imagining a world of interconnected OP stack L2s, all running in kind of harmony there, which I think is really great. I think that, if Cosmos wasn't dead already from OP stack, this is going to kill it even more because why would you build a Cosmos chain over something using either Polygon's tech stack or Optimism's tech stack, which give you the flexibility to obviously settle on Ethereum, but not, you don't have to settle your data on Ethereum. You could settle your data somewhere else, whether that be on EigenLayer or maybe Celestia or some other data availability layer, and then the whole point of like Cosmos was to have like this app chain thing, which it seems like Ethereum is doing with Polygon and Optimism focusing on this specifically. So I think that's what they're going to reveal about their architecture and stack here and talk more about. Token, I mean, we can all speculate on the stuff about the token. I've said before in the Daily Gwei Discord channel around the token, and again, just disclosing how I'm an advisor to Polygon, I hold Matic tokens. It is my second largest position besides ETH, so just want to disclose that there. But in terms of speculating on the token and the tokenomics, I think that the two biggest things will be enabling the token to be used as a governance token, because right now it can't be used as a governance token. and also making it a staking token for the L2s in order to decentralize things like sequences and validators on L2. In terms of it being used as a fee token, I don't really think that tokens accrue value based on being a fee token really at all. You know, in Ethereum's case, it's a bit different because there's so much of that of those fees being burned. But even then, I don't consider it like a huge deal versus other things that drive value to ETH. So I think that in terms of Matic's use as a fee token, I wonder if they're going to still use Matic as a fee token on the POS chain, or if they're going to swap it out for ETH and then just use Matic as a staking and governance token. And then you obviously stakers capture fee revenue on the ZKVMs. And then that's how the value is driven there, and obviously governance as well on that front. So I think that might happen, but we'll have to see on the revamp there. And then lastly, obviously they're talking about decentralizing out the governance of the whole Polygon ecosystem, of the ZKVMs, and doing similar to what Optimism is doing with OP, where people spin up chains, but then they can tap into OP and use the OP governance stack and use the Optimism governance process to govern their own chain, instead of having to start something on their own from scratch there. So I'm super excited to see all the details around this over these dates. I'll obviously be covering it on the Refuel as they come out here. But yeah, that's my personal speculation on what this is here. And honestly, I think this is a huge undertaking for Polygon, because this is a huge kind of, and the naming of Polygon 2.0 is very apt here, because they seem to be fundamentally kind of changing their architecture, but also just aligning everything. So it seems like obviously they've had a few different experiments running over the past couple of years since they rebranded from Matic Network. Obviously the POS chain was a big deal. Then they developed their ZKVM stuff after acquiring those teams like Hermes and Maya or Mer. And Polygon Zero as well, which was the former, I think, like Facebook people working on Starks. And they're bringing that all together, and they're unifying it under this new Polygon 2.0 umbrella, which I think is very sensible. But yeah, you can read the thread and the blog post for a full breakdown of that. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, and I'll, of course, keep you guys updated as more information comes out about this. All right, lastly here, Uniswap Labs is teasing something that is going live today. So either this announcement has already happened and you're watching the Refuel after it has happened, or it hasn't yet, but I think we all know what this is. They've been teasing it for a few days now, Uniswap V4. Now, I don't think V4 is actually going to go live today. I think they're just going to announce it. And I don't think V4 can actually go live until that EIP, I think it's 1153, goes live on the Ethereum network, because the V4 architecture actually relies on that EIP. And as I've said before, the Denkun upgrade won't be live till the end of the year. So I think that V4 will either target going live, you know, just after Denkun goes live, or maybe in the new year. But I don't expect V4 to go live today, right? I expect the announcement to happen. I'm very excited to see what the announcement is. I can't even imagine what they've got planned for V4, considering V3 was such a step change compared to V2. But I do think that it's going to be very exciting. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Obviously, I'll cover it on tomorrow's Refuel. But yeah, as I said, I don't think V4 is going to go live until after Denkun, unless they fundamentally changed their architecture to work without it. But I think that they wouldn't do that, because they'd rather just wait the 6 or so months to deploy V4 than change the architecture completely just to, I guess, like launch V4 and then have to do what they wanted to do in a V5. It'd be messy, right? So I think that they're going to wait until Denkun goes live and then launch V4. But if they're announcing it this early, I would speculate that they probably want to get people involved with it in some capacity. So maybe that they're finally doing what people have been asking for, which is essentially decentralizing out the development of Uniswap to the community. Because right now it's just really Uniswap Labs and maybe some co-contributors from other DeFi protocols working closely with Uniswap Labs on this. But I think that they may want to make it so that people in the public can build on this, because that's been a top criticism of Uniswap's development process for a little while now. And that, to me, is true decentralization of Uniswap as an ecosystem, because it means the community can finally have a say in what gets built, how it gets built, and actually contribute to it as a proper open source project here. But anyway, on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.